There was a time when the Flames couldn't win in Anaheim. They had gone years without victories at the Honda Center, and it seemed like that was all kind of, whatever, cutting heads off chickens or whatever you need to do to get over that sort of thing. They'd won 9 straight down in Anaheim. This one tonight felt like one of those games that was right in the teeth of that drought. They're finally going to win. Nope, they're not. They would be Scott Niedermayer or Chris Pronger or Getzlaff or somebody would stick it to them right at the end of the game and it'd be like, they're never going to win here. They're never going to win in Anaheim. But a gut-wrenching loss, and one with, I dare say, catastrophic implications for the Flames playoffs, their playoff hopes. Welcome back to Afterburner. It's Boomer. It's Ryan Pike. Yasmin at the controls. We appreciate you. I would expect there's some emotions tonight, Pike. I would think that it was a bit of a little roller coaster. Felt okay, then pretty good, then not great, then good, then not good at all.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen this group play a lot of close games, and I believe on the other program you guys cited a stat that I tweeted out earlier about the Flames have played in the most close games, most time in a close game of any team in the league, and I would say that they've shown remarkable composure in close games this season against some very, very, very good hockey clubs, and uncharacteristically in the third period, there was a distinct lack of composure by the road team, and as a result, instead of talking about potentially a near miss 3-2 or 3-1 win where they were okay in the first 2 periods, couldn't score, and then they figured out the third period. Like we've sung that song before this year, and it's a familiar song, and it's one I think we're okay with singing. We're talking about a game where they were up with 4 minutes and 42 seconds left by 2 goals on the road in a game they had to win, and ended up losing in overtime.
They do lose in overtime. The final score is 4-3. This is Afterburner. We're a presentation of Bet365. Just whatever the moment. It's never ordinary at Bet365. And throughout the course of the show tonight, if you feel like you have to, we have got the super chat. You put a little comment into the YouTube chat with just a little bit of dough, just a little bit of cash. We'll send the cash to the Youth Centers of Calgary, and then we'll put your comment up on the show. So yeah, there's a few things here we'll get into. This would be a good night for Origin Brewing. I mean, send some love out to the good fellas and ladies out at Origin in Strathmore and in the Northeast, as this would be time to crack one. If I had one nearby, I'd probably be doing that tonight. Keep your eyes originbrewing.ca plus the other show plus this show. It's going to be a big summer for Origin. I don't know if you're ready for it, Pike. I'd tell you, but I don't know if you're ready for it. I don't think you can handle it.
It's been suggested to me that I need to get ready for it, but I have not been told what to get ready for.
Yeah.
But I'm excited based on the track record thus far.
Yeah, it's pretty great. So I kind of, this was another one of those games where if you were a writer, you would have started something and then garbaged it and then started it up again. I was going to credit the Flames and their resiliency, that they had that played pretty well, outshooting the Ducks more or less 2-1, and there they are. They've got an ability. They're going to tuck this thing away, even after Zegras ties this thing, score 2 goals, 3-1. They've shown among other things down the stretch here, very plucky. And then the Ducks do to the Flames what the Flames have done so many times here over the last month, 6 weeks, which is get a couple in a hurry, stun the opponent, and then walk out with a couple. We've got some of the highlights here. I guess I'm more interested, I suppose, in the last 2 in regulation for the Ducks. The Flames, they get 2 in a relatively short amount of time and take a 3-1 lead, as you had said, with 4:42 left. There should be enough composure there to get this thing across the finish line, but they don't. We'll take a look, I guess, for starters, at the Vetrano goal. It seems like you're in pretty good shape here. Uyghur, maybe it's a breakdown. I don't really know.
Where is everybody?
Where is everybody? There's the defense. I mean, Sharangovich is doing his thing. There's a change that's happening. Klapka's late getting on. It's not.
And I think on the broadcast they showed a sort of the reverse angle of it, where it's basically there's a turnover in the the Flames overcommit on a defensive play, turn the puck over. Troy Terry sort of starts moving things up the ice, and Troy Terry can move. So as a result, you already have too many guys in orange sweaters moving up ice and not enough white sweaters.
Yeah.
And between that and the change, and you sort of see, I feel bad for that poor defenseman sort of stuck in no man's land, because who do you cover there? Like, you're trying not to cheat in either direction, so he ends up covering kind of nobody. But there's nowhere, like, he has nowhere good to go. So
they are two men looking for help back there. And you look at the goals that go in there. Zegras' goal is in the roof, and Vetrano is he's a great shooter. That's his 21st. And then somehow, 8 seconds later, whatever it ended, they said 5 on the broadcast. They're calling 8 seconds off the next face-off, and it's Cutter Gauthier. He had a couple goals in the last game. And here again, I guess there's a bit of a pinch. That one's just it's a shot, and it's probably one that Wolf's kind of needs to have. We don't say that very often, but that's a routine Wolf save right there.
Yeah, it's one that has to be routine, right? But he's just, I'd say there's a couple, like, I know the Gauthier's release was a little bit sneaky, because usually you're expecting him to go high, and instead he goes the low stick side, and that's kind of a tough one. That's a tough one to go for if you're conditioned that he's going to go high. So tip the cap to Cutter Gauthier. I know the Edmonton Oilers were very dissatisfied playing against him a couple nights ago, and maybe don't let that guy get that many good shots off, because it's I know around these parts we've made a cottage industry of dunking on the defensive acumen of various Edmonton Oilers players over the course of time, and my favorite meme is this guy scored meme with the guy being left alone with the puck. But the last 3 goals the Flames gave up especially are prime this guy scores territory.
And we may as well take a look at the overtime winner as well. Kind of weird that both teams, where it's usually the most important thing is to have that possession, and both teams had it for a period of time, and there it's, I don't know if it's on Backlund. He's kind of late, and he's not skating hard there to get back into the play. This is a 3-on-2 from the far blue line. He's already had a scoring chance, so he's maybe out of gas. He can't go and change right there because they're going the other way with numbers. And again, it's another great shot. So make no mistake, this is were they, even with a win, were they going to make the playoffs? It's a long shot, but it certainly feels like this is, if even the most hopeful, optimistic, glass half full, feel like this is a tough night for those that are holding out hope. I
would use the term dire. There's some folks in the chat asking me to update my beautiful graphic.
Yeah, dude, it's short notice. I wouldn't expect. There's producer Jack. Yeah, can we see the updated graph? The graph it's been a great aid for us on the other show. Really kind of to make it very clear what kind of things are happening as far as this race is concerned.
So, very quick math: the Flames can only win 4 games. They only have 4 games left. So the Flames win all 4. They get to 96 points. If Minnesota wins 0 or 1 game, they end up with 93 or 95. If Minnesota wins 2 or 3, the Flames are done no matter what they do.
Yeah.
So you basically have to win on Friday and then hope that either Anaheim or Vancouver does you a favor. Anaheim is mathematically out of it. Vancouver just got eliminated from playoff contention this evening because of the result in the Minnesota game. So the only team that any of the remaining games matter for is the red team, and none of the teams that they have in common will be playing meaningful games. So I don't know if they can necessarily expect motivated opposition from here on out.
Another thing that's worth mentioning from this game, they played well enough to win, obviously. They had a lead after 40. They had a 3-1 lead with under 5 left. But they go 0 for 6 on the power play. And we talk about it every once in a while, that you get to that point. I don't know what the tipping point is, if it's 4, if it's 0 for 5, where the power plays, where they shift, and it's now you can have the puck and you can have possession, but the other team is drawing the momentum. They're drawing strength off of okay, we've killed off 3 in a row. Now it's 4. Now it's 5. By the time the 6th one, it's doing the Flames no good. They're squeezing their sticks. They're completely psyched out, and the other team is feeling pretty good. And true to form, it was pretty much after that. I think it was the Hellison. As soon as the Hellison penalty was done, within a minute, Zegras scored to make it 1-1. 0 for 6 in a game that went to overtime. Tough.
Yeah, and especially you go into the third up a goal, and first half of the third period, I think they had a very good first or second period. They deserve to get at least one. And Ville, who's so historically dating back to his time early in the league, has always been tough against the Flames. And so you get those 2 power plays. It's basically the hockey gods going, "There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Just take it if you want. It's up for grabs." And then, yeah, it's just they I think on 6 combined power plays, 12 minutes of 5-on-4 advantage, they had 8 shots. I don't know if I think they might have had maybe 2 or 3 dangerous shots. Period.
Yeah.
And they're the lowest scoring team in the league. We are aware of that, but they're not without offensive firepower. We saw, we've seen, Jonathan Huberdeau is flirting with 30 goals. Nazem Kadri's having a very good season. We saw once again a very nice bit of offensive play from Matt Coronado on the third Flames goal. They're not without skill, but for whatever reason, just the power play has never crept above that, the midway mark of the league. And it sort of had some hot streaks, had some poor streaks. The penalty kill has been much more effective than the power play, probably dating back to January or February.
Mm-hmm.
But this is the kind of game where you're like, ooh, you kind of needed one from those units, especially with the amount of time they got.
Yeah, it's an incredible amount of time. It is. I guess it went whatever it went tonight, 61 and 11 seconds. But you had 12 minutes of power play time. That's a lot of time with a man advantage. It's weird now because of the outcome, and I think probably how bleak it all feels to gotta get into individual things. I guess we can talk about Morgan Frost. Runs into Weegar, is injured, and I think it was the second period. Took one shift in the third, and then didn't return. So that's probably something to monitor, I guess, going into this. Let's call it a must-win game against the Wild. And I believe it's a career high for minutes for Adam Klapka tonight, as
first line Klapka.
Yeah, 1651 for him. I know you and Ryan were talking about him the other night. It's hard to, what's the ceiling? What are we seeing? What kind of player are we watching maybe evolve here? But it's a guy who you wouldn't have expected to be getting this type of responsibility laid upon him. And for what it's worth, at least I think it's the best Adam Klapka that Adam Klapka can put out there, because he has been impactful, has scored some goals, he of course drew that penalty the other night that led to a goal. So you'd feel a lot better about a few of these things had they won this game. But it's I don't know where you had Klapka if you had the off-season ranking of Flames prospects and the likelihood of impact on the roster.
I mean, he's kind of a tricky one because he has some, let's call them hospice-y tendencies to his game where he's big. I would argue I don't think he has the offensive upside of Pospisil, but I also think because he's maybe a little bit smarter with his physicality, he doesn't really have that kind of recklessness that Pospisil at times has. And so there's not as many downsides too. So I would argue he's he seems to project as a very useful bottom six winger because he's the kind of guy where, think like, for how many years did Milan Lucic make a damn fine living in the National Hockey League simply by being a big dude who knew how to use his frame? And obviously Lucic's game had its own sort of, warts to it that we don't need to get into. But, I see Klapka at this age sort of figuring out what he can do. I mean, he's been better and better every time we've seen him called up. I think this is his 6th or 7th call up this year, and every time he's in, he makes it a little bit tougher for him to be taken out. And I'd say he was a guy that needs waivers next year. Do you think that any of the 31 NHL teams, for a guy who probably won't make a ton of money on his next deal because he doesn't have the big stats yet, 6'8", 235, can skate well, can scrap, can score, can play with your best players, can give you reliable minutes whether he's playing 15 or 10.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he's going on waivers anytime soon.
Well, and yeah, I think probably a lot of teams have a certain form of Adam Klapka, a guy who's a few years removed from his draft, who's got some wheels in that might be the odd man out. But with where the Flames are at, depending what the roster does next year, I would guess he's probably going to be in the mix for one of those depth jobs again. And I don't know what Pospisil is. I feel like this has kind of been, he and Zary come in with so much excitement and vim and vigor and that, and Zary has just kind of continued despite the injuries to kind of progress. It feels like this is a bit of a backward step for Pospisil this year, right? So to hear does he have the offensive upside of Pospisil? I don't know what Pospisil even is at this point, because numbers wise,
I mean,
it's okay.
Well, that was the weird thing too, because like this was another game where they started the game with Pospisil on the 4th line because, to be blunt, I don't think he was all that good against San Jose, and Klapka is much better. But with Frost basically missing the entire third period, they threw Pospisil up onto that makeshift third line with Farabee and Sharangovich, and I thought Pospisil was kind of good there. I mean, he was kind of playing wing, kind of playing center. It's a line with a guy who's definitely a winger and Farabee, and two guys that, I don't know, they'll do what you need and what you ask them to do, but I don't know if either of them is a center long term. But they turned out to play pretty well. I mean, maybe it's just beginner's luck, or blind squirrel finding a nut, but I thought they were decent. But yeah, it's just I know Pinder always brings up Walker Duehr having that fantastic first season in the NHL, getting that contract, and then just not being able to live up to it. And after Monday's game, he was sort of pondering, is Klapka another Duehr? Perhaps
it
the
could
next
be,
Duehr
right?
is Pospisil. I don't know. So I mean, Walker Duehr is currently playing with the San Jose Barracuda. So I mean, I don't know if anyone necessarily wants to be the next Walker Duehr or not. But
yeah. There's a lot of those guys that lay on the side of the road. There's another one that, like Lance Boma. You keep waiting. Lance Boma be next captain of this team, maybe, or he plays okay and then starts to tail off. That's next year conversation. We'll get into the road ahead right now. It's a presentation of Platinum Mitsubishi, Calgary's #1 destination for the upgraded 2025 Outlander, the refreshed flagship 7-seater from Mitsubishi Motors. Is that this weekend? Saturday, April 12th. Look at this. You can taste it and touch it and smell it and feel it. Don't taste it. It's the 2025 Outlander, the launch barbecue event. Taste the delicious food. Face painting for the kids, scavenger hunt, raffle prizes, giveaways, so much more. Check out the brand new Outlander. Meet the friendly folks at, I suppose Gould will be there. Hopefully they'll have him reined in. And it says here, appearances from Flames Nation's Ryan Pinder and Ryan Pike, the Ryans. You can talk about Zane Parekh and should he have played, and contract statuses and waiver eligibilities. Man, what a day it's going to be, Pike. What a day it's going to be.
Did you see Zane's hair on the broadcast? What a head of hair on that kid.
Yeah, he can grow it. He can grow it. Get into the best back cars in the country with a standard 10-year powertrain warranty at Platinum Mitsubishi 2720 Barlow Trail Northeast here in Calgary. So the road ahead. It does feel like some of the zip is gone from this game, but Friday it's going to be the Wild and the Flames at the Dome. The Wild, you talk about, because what we saw tonight does not happen very often, where you have a third period lead where you're up by 2 with under 5 to play and you lose. Last night, the Dallas Stars were up 5-2 with about a minute left and lost in overtime. Earlier tonight, the Minnesota Wild, I think, had a 5-goal lead in the third period and had to get to overtime to win it. And then, of course, we saw what happened in this game. So hard to say what to expect. It does feel like if things had changed a little bit, maybe there's a overtime loss instead of a win on both sides, move some points around. It'd be a little bit more, have a little bit more juice, but it's still going to be, it should still be a good one. Friday, Flames host the Wild. Sunday, San Jose, and then Tuesday at home to Vegas, and then the season wraps up next Thursday down in Los Angeles. So it feels very, the end could possibly be very near.
It's not quite a death march, but I think I'm very curious what the atmosphere is going to be at the palatial Scotiabank Saddledome on Friday night. It's an 8:00 start, and I think it's going to be one of those games heading into the weekend where, will there be an anxious crowd? Will there be a drunk crowd? Will there be a celebratory crowd? Because if we're being completely honest here, if you go back to September and October and look at all the power rankings and stuff, I know we were cautiously optimistic because I think, my season preview, a few folks in the organization ribbed me about it because I did not make any damn predictions because my entire prediction was basically, I don't know. But a lot of different outlets, very informed people said, bottom 5, bottom 6, I don't know, won't be very good. I think the over-under for points from the betting places was like 75, 80, somewhere in there. So they're, flirting with 10 points above where anyone thought they would be, considering that they didn't have a lot of the players this year they had last year. On paper, this was a much different and arguably worse team than hit the ice last October. And yet we're here after game 78 going, damn, they really hurt their playoff chances here. So in the grand scheme of things, in year one of whatever the hell we're calling this process, it's
well, they didn't make the playoffs last year either, right? So
this is true.
Can't be a throwaway year.
But that was the demolition year where they were actively stripping the plane for parts as they were trying to fly it.
I don't think you get credit for that. I think if it's like in Buffalo for Buffalo, it's a 14-year drought. I don't think it's 13 just because that first year doesn't really count.
How many times did they hit the reset button during that rebuild though? Is it like one 14-year rebuild or is it a series of 2-year rebuilds?
Yeah, it's crazy for sure. So that's how it shakes out. What will LA, Vegas have left? San Jose put up a decent fight against the Wild tonight. And the thing about Minnesota, what a crazy game. And the thing about this is the Flames are within striking distance of Minnesota. You wonder just what that would look like if they hadn't been without Kirill Kaprizov for as long as they have been, because he comes back tonight, scores 2 amazing goals. He's such a great shooter, including the overtime winner. And Eriksson Ek, who they've been without, he had 4 goals. So do the math on that, and feels like those 2 guys would be heavy contributors were they in the roster or on the roster all season. So St. Louis loses tonight, so they're in that mix as well. It just felt like, and because we had on the other show, I know we'd shifted our focus because of this head-to-head game coming up on Friday. And now it feels like kind of pissed that away too.
It was the most likely path though. I mean, even with them getting healthy, it's the only one where the Flames really control their own destiny. So outside of, getting their voodoo dolls for St. Louis and everyone possible. If it's possible for every team above them to lose every game they play from here on out, the only team they can contribute to that happening is the Minnesota Wild. But it's it's. I think this one sort of feels like may not the end, but the begin. Basically, the proverbial fat lady is not singing quite yet, but she's doing her vocal exercises and she's waiting in the wings, because this was a one where you had it on a silver platter.
In the spirit of the Flames, it would be them to come and win, if not handily, but to win in regulation, to get the full victory and just snug things up for a little bit longer. Maybe that's what we need, because I think the whole discussion about where you're going to pick in your draft pick, I feel like we're well past that now. You may as well try and get in, and this one does certainly sting. It's the road ahead. It's a presentation of Platinum Mitsubishi, the Outlander 2025, first ever vehicle with the audio system, the Yamaha, new for 2025, only vehicle mainstream. You go from the base all the way to the top of the line trim. Everybody's getting that top of the line stereo, because you got to rock out. You deserve to rock out. It's 2025. You can't be listening to subpar tunes while you're cruising around in your Outlander with your 10-year powertrain warranty. 2720 Barlow Trail Northeast. And get ready on Saturday between 11 and 4 p.m. It is the unveiling. They'll have a big smoke cloud, and Ryan Pinder and Ryan Pike will walk out with the Outlander behind them, the headlights shining through the fog.
I was promised lasers.
Laser, we'll work on it. Yeah, we'll work on it. I mean, it's hard. We could talk about. It's just there's a lot of stuff that feels like it falls flat right now. I mean, Sharon Govich is kind of starting. He had this shootout goal and he scores tonight. You're happy for Coronado. He scores again. He's up to 23. But you had a lead. I get that I'm repeating myself. And there is next year, and there is the off season, and what did you expect? And yeah, they're not very good, and they've got all the caps, but there is all of that, and I get all that. But it felt like, even with what happened with Minnesota, they did it again. They're plucky, got through it in the third period. They don't score many, and it feels like if they score, it's coming in the third period. And credit to them for coming back and avoiding the banana peel and the embarrassing loss. And they gave up 2 and 5 seconds. 8 seconds, pardon me. 2 and 8. Hard to do. Hard to give up 2 and 8.
I think it's hard to do that. I was hard to think back in my mind. Hypothetically, if you just went, we're just not going to put a goalie in net. Do you think you give up 2 goals?
Yeah, if you had 3 defenders back there.
If you don't have a goaltender and you just have an extra skater up there?
Yeah. I feel for I kind of feel for the coaches. That's a tough pill, because you've done a pretty good job with this team, and because of maybe just some shoddy back checking or a bit of a bad change, you give up 2 goals, and it could cost you, and in essence could cost you your season. But
and we've talked about the razor thin margins with this team, because they don't score a lot of goals. They play a very structured, very labor intensive, very mentally taxing system of hockey to play. And you're hoping, okay, you can just you know how you need to look, you know how you need to play, you know the system, you know the details. And if you look back, pretty much all of the goals they gave up in that space, especially the last 2 in regulation, the details just weren't there. And so you end up getting good looks. That second.
You know what it is? It's the whole thing again.
The
process, and you stick with the systems and all that sort of thing. And Rhett, I think in a way tongue in cheek, but I know part of him believes it, that if Conroy would have gone out and get some scorers, Conroy, go and get some guys, this team for all those 1-goal games, right? This is another one. You talked about that graphic. How many minutes this season have you been up, down, or tied by a single goal? Where they would be with just a little more scoring. Don't be the worst. Be kind of bad. Like middle of the pack, let's just slow down. Don't want to get too greedy. But if they had a few more goals here and there, how different this team would be. And maybe right now, if you have Zeri, maybe I don't know, maybe Anthony Mantha. We'll never know. We'll never know.
Justin Kirkland.
We'll never know.
I mean, I think their idea was was there anything out there that would have had a price you could live with to nudge it to give them a little bit more? And I don't think there is. And especially, if you went for a rental with anything, like we saw the prices that were going around at the beginning of March with like second and first and this, that, and the other thing going around, Conway probably would have been crucified by the fan base for overpaying. And so
already people, and not to start, what are you signing Mantha for? What the hell? What's this about? Well, you can justify it and say, well, if you can have it, you put him on a power play and let him score a bunch of goals, you trade him at the deadline and maybe get something for him back, because this team's not going to be in the playoff hunt, of course. So you'll trade him at the deadline and try and get something back. And then he was injured and you didn't have him all season. So that was for one guy. That was Mantha. If you'd have gone out and signed anyone with term for any amount of dollars, if not crucified, to your point, then you'd have been heavily criticized. But
on paper, it felt like, okay, Coronado's still waiver exempt, had only played 1 year pro. Okay, you have Kuzmenko, you're probably moving at some point. All right, cool. You can sign a Mantha and then flip him at some point. And you're probably going to flip Kuzmenko too. So, you have a spot for Coronado, you have a spot for whoever else really, if someone stands out on the farm, you're fine. But yeah, it was just I don't think there's anything out there that would have moved the needle at the prices they'd be willing to pay. And for where we are in whatever we're calling this process, the retool, the rebuild, the reverb, the whatever, the roster rehabilitation, this is the first full year of the process. And, Brad Treliving used to use the phrase asset accumulation phase, where if you're at the beginning of it and you don't really have a tippity top core, you don't really have your aces quite yet, or maybe they're not here yet. Zane Parekh is 19. He just turned 19. And so we'll see what happens with him, but you're still waiting to see what Basha turns into, Morin, Suniev, all these guys. So it's still early. And so it's probably too early to be sending first rounders, second rounders out the door to take care of short-term roster problems. They sent a second out the door in the Frost Farabee trade, but I think they sort of saw the ages of those guys and went, okay, big picture, maybe, when Coleman ages out of his current contract, you have a Farabee right there. Okay, that seems fine. You have his potential replacement in-house already, and he's much younger. Okay, that's age group asset. Frost is a young center. Okay, that works. Oh, sure. Second rounder, you probably weren't going to get, the odds of getting an asset that would turn into either of those guys with the second, kind of low, and you already have another second. Okay, cool. But you're not in the business of moving out first. And so I think they're probably destined to sort of, outside of, the wacky, terrifying injury that Zari suffered, and thankfully it wasn't worse than it was. Outside of, they've basically been going with the same group they've had all year. And the group they had all year, this is the type of game that they didn't often lose.
The Derek Newman Group, CIR Realty, they're ready to help you. Whether you're buying or selling, let Derek and his crew go to work for you. The website is Derek Newman. So you can see it right above Pike's head there, right above his red brim of his chapeau. DERRICK. That's how you spell Derek Newman. DerekNewmanGroup.com. Complimentary in-house home staging consultations. Whether it's your first home purchase, maybe you're a flipper. You ever have aspirations of being a flipper? Mover? Shaker? Nah.
Not especially.
Yeah. The ability to find homes off the market. He's tapped, he's from Calgary. He works for Calgary. He's going to know this house is not on the market yet, but it might be. So if you're thinking, just hold off because this one might be coming. That's the kind of intel you need. Call Derek 403-619-6661 or go to dereknewmangroup.com to find out more and let Derek Newman and his group work for you. I'm pretty much done with Jake Bean. I did go and check. It's like, Christ, he's got another year. Like I'm done watching this guy. So it's not a great time to ask me about it because just about anybody put Miramanov back in there. I don't give a shit at this point. But everybody, and it's in the chat, and everybody's going to want to know. So Adar Suniev is in. He's in town. Zay Parekh is in town. Morgan Frost is injured. Jake Bean's a tire fire right now. Didn't expect to see them tonight. Do you expect? I don't know. Do you expect to see them at home when you have last change against the Minnesota Wild on Friday? Not so much Suniev, I suppose, but Parekh's the guy that has people salivating the most, I would think.
Against the Wild, no. I think until they have that little E next to their name in the standings, I think they go with the ones that brought them, and they'll probably need, my guess is if I'm asked to make predictions, Dryden Hunt comes in on Friday to play fourth line, and I think they go with that, and then depending on what happens on Friday, maybe we see some new faces. The Calgary Wranglers are basically already in the playoffs. Bakersfield might be losing as we speak, and so the Wranglers are destined to be a playoff team. They don't really need to, if you're worried about like, oh man, if they bring up Sam Morton and Ilya Solovyov, are they going to screw over the Wranglers and make them miss the playoffs? No, they can bring guys up. And so I think after Friday, depending on the outcome of Friday, I think we'll start seeing more substantial changes, as I think potentially after Friday, the decision-making mode will change a little bit.
But the thing of it is, and I don't know, and I don't want to have the same conversation that you and Pinder had till whatever time in the morning the other night. It's the most important game of the season. And this guy, for his age, has a lot of skill. He has more skill than Jake Bean or Miramanov or Hanley or, what I mean? And I don't know that I agree, but some would say, of course, once you're out of it, they can play. There is let the guys who got you to the dance finish it. But also it's your season Friday. If this guy can help your 0 for 6 power play, maybe be 1 for 6, then is that maybe worth it? Limit those minutes. You have last change. I don't think it's the craziest thing in the world. You're not just because he's a first rounder. This is a special player. And I know we always default back to when Cale Makar came in for Colorado. And so as it turns out, Cale Makar might be the best defenseman we're going to see in our lifetime. So outside of that, I don't know. I'm here for the conversation. I'm not dead set against it. I'm not rooting. I'm not saying it's the smart thing to do, but I do wonder what it would look like.
Yeah, and I think for me, at home changes the conversation a bit, and the fact that, okay, let's be blunt here. If you have the choice, I love Dryden Hunt. This is nothing against Dryden Hunt. Dryden Hunt is a metronome. You can set your watch to that guy. Dryden Hunt does not move the needle offensively a ton, nor does he doesn't really stand out negatively in any way, but he's not a difference maker. Of the fourth liners they have, I would argue Dryden Hunt is sort of left off the page the least out of the guys they have, for positive or negative reasons. He's a perfect fourth liner in that respect. But if you're in a backs against the wall scenario and you just had the type of evening that your power play had in a must-win game, if you tell me, okay, you need to make one significant change to try to wake the team up in that game. If you run the 7D and your 7th D is power play specialist Zane Parekh, I think you can work with it. I didn't think I'd be saying that 12 hours ago.
I honestly, I don't think it
saw.
happens. I don't think they do it. Partially because I think you're talking about all of a sudden a team in Minnesota that has a very high level skill and they're big. You've got some bodies that crash and bang. I don't know if this is where the only reason you'd put him in is if you felt like he gave you a legitimate chance to be better and win. And I feel like that's a lot to expect out of a 19-year-old who's been playing. And that's the other thing. He's been playing at a high level. He hasn't, I don't feel like, having watched none of his games, I feel like the level that he was against in the O to what he'd be playing against here, because he was just having his way. I would think he probably, out of the whatever 60 games he play in the junior hockey, 20 maybe didn't break a sweat. 15, 20, it's like I don't even need to shower, fellas.
And the level of physicality that he would have to deal with as a pro, especially against a playoff bound team, especially again in this kind of environment, it'd be a bit more than he's used to.
Yeah.
But
coming up
it's
next
interesting
week,
conversation.
It's the playoff draft. It's the Barnburner playoff draft. It is back for the third straight year. Going to be hosted at the BMO Center and with our friends at Cowboys Casino, presented by McLeod Law, our longtime partners, and good to have Fountain Tire, just a real Alberta success story. Started in Wainwright. Now they've got like 165 stores from BC to Ontario. Awesome. Love having these people on board. Love having you on board. You gonna be there?
I think so. The game starts at what, 7:30?
Yeah, something like that. We feel we might have it. Doors open at 6. We'll get down to it. We'll go watch the. They'll probably putting in an empty netter. I'm guessing maybe it'll be Parekh with the empty netter that night. It'll be awesome.
Yeah, I might have to do some work there, but if there's Wi-Fi, I can do.
Okay, we'll see.
We'll talk off air.
BMO Center probably has maybe some dial-up for you over there. You want to get involved? There are very few teams left. Eden at kidsportcalgary.ca. That is the website to contact if you want to get in. I do it right away, though. And it's all in support of our friends at Kidsport Calgary because we care about the kids. And bleep talking one another and having some drinks and food and laughs.
Folks, if you haven't been to one of the playoff drafts, the gentlemen are on another level. If you have not seen Rhett Warner in his element in one of these drafts, you need to see Rhett Warner. Just the fee to get a team in.
You're really kind of blowing. I was thinking this year I might bring the soundboard.
Some people are really fucking stupid.
I'm just thinking I could load up some special drops for the night and still kind of do the deal. We'll see how it goes. Let's take a look at our Bet365. Breaking news coming in from Bet365. Every nail biting overtime is a barn burner. Every face-off, hat trick, power play, shot on goal, penalty shot, every suspenseful minute in between is amazing. Whatever the moment, never ordinary at Bet365, an official partner of the NHL. Download the Bet365 app today. Use the code NATION when you do. Get in on the game. You must be 19 or older. Please play responsibly. There's 10 games on the schedule tomorrow night. And to me, the most compelling is the Jets down in Dallas to take on the Stars. This is a battle, Pike. A battle for supremacy. For who's
a conference final preview?
It could be. Yeah, it could be. As the Winnipeg Jets, 110 points. Dallas, 106. 4 points separating the two. 4 games remain for both. Whew. It could be a real slobber knocker.
Yeah, and two very fun teams to watch. And
Dallas just pooped themselves against the Canucks the other night. So there is that.
Yeah, and potentially I would argue the Vezina frontrunner in Winnipeg against a whole bunch of good guys who can score goals in Dallas. So
yeah,
it's I imagine they're going to try to crowd the net a bit.
It's going to be a good time. And you get, hey, money line for the Jets plus money. Doesn't happen often, but take a shot. Why wouldn't you? That's how that works with Bet365. And there's 10 games tomorrow. There's all kinds of stuff going on. All kinds of stuff going on. Be 19 or older. Please play responsibly. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. I think we've got maybe, you can take a look at a couple of... I think we got a couple of super chats. We saw already people are really... Now, what do you call the graph? Is it a graph, a grid? It's kind of a grid?
I guess the grid.
Pike grid?
I guess now it's the Doom
gridlock.
Grid,
Yeah, very gritty. We're doing the gritty, something like that. Anyway, but we don't have that. Here's a super chat. The $6.99 for Neil. Just oi. I can relate.
Neil hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
Oi.
Well done, Neil. You've captured it. Captured the spirit of the whole thing. CH, free agency, buy a goal scorer or two. I won't lie to you. I haven't. That's kind of off-season stuff. Once this whole regular season is done, and if by chance there's no playoffs for the Flames, they start to kind of really get into the RFA and UFA crop and see what's out there and what makes sense, if anything. So I will say this, CH, they could use some help offensively. Real bold take. Shock jockery, hot takery at its best.
You're saying that the lowest scoring team in the National League of Hockey needs to score more goals to get to where they want to go next season?
Are they like officially they're just dead last? Because I know
down
5-on-5
I haven't
it was
seen the updated thing in a bit.
Yeah, I know it takes a while. You don't know what you're dealing with, but yeah, like I know 5-on-5. It's just and the yeah, they need some help. And I don't know. I think you can you count?
Oh, I'm sorry. Third last.
Oh, okay. See, last. You son of a...
Nashville and San Jose have fewer.
Just painting them with a brush. You're a journalist.
Never mind. They don't... Everything's good.
When Ryan Pike speaks, I suspect everything that I'm receiving is factual and accurate. Now you're just...
My statistics were outdated.
Yeah.
And I feel great shame.
Well, you should. Yeah, you should. Yeah, I don't know what... Where does Zeri go? Coronado 23. Where does he finish? And is he 40 goal guy next year? I don't know. I think they need to find some scoring. I don't think, regardless of what you want this team to do. And so, yes, I've heard of Gavin McKenna. I am aware of this whole thing, but I think it behooves you as a team, after watching your team play this hard, play this well at times, get this kind of goaltending, to then just say, we think our offense was just fine. If you're not trying to get better, then what are you doing? But I don't know. Maybe you do. Maybe you like.
Well, and especially like with I think the message that Craig spoke to the media when we all chatted with him at various points before, during, and after the trade deadline period was basically just, want to give the boys a chance to finish what they started. And I would also, you could always also extend that to basically, this is sort of an evaluation opportunity for the guys they have to be like, okay, what is the potential of the group that they have? And obviously, I don't think it's a secret. Rasmus Anderson is not playing at 100%. I would say Uyghur is not 100%. I would say the list of guys who aren't 100% is quite long. And they, with all these, missing Zari, with all these things, they're just, they're a little bit lacking right now in terms of being able to convert a lot of zone time and a lot of puck possession at times into eye-popping offensive opportunities. So it's is there someone out there? Is there something in the system? Is there potentially a 19-year-old defenseman they can include on their team next year that would move that forward? Maybe.
I'll say this in terms of where are you going to find offense and what are you going to do with that sort of thing. I just remember year 1, year 2 of Joel Farabee's career in Philly. I'm like, this guy's a hell of a player. He and Frost have combined for 5 goals. 3 goals, 2 assists in 26 games for Joel Farabee. And he's not sniffed the fourth line for any amount of time. He's not been injured. He took that shot off of his hand, and maybe there's something there. Frost is on the ice all the time, making plays. The puck is on his stick. He has 2 goals. Should have 3. The one went off Huberdeau's pants the other night. But if you're looking for hope, are they going to get some scores? I feel like it'd be hard for those 2 guys to be this bad offensively again next season for a full season.
Yeah. I'll say this for Farabee. I mean, I think it's safe to say he's not, in terms of putting the puck in the net, he's not quite Matt Coronado. Coronado, I think, is, he's third on the team. He's very good at this, and he's probably gonna get a little bit better as he goes along. But the Flames have used either Farabee or Coronado as the winger with the tough minutes Backlund Coleman line, and as a result, you're going to be buried against some of the other team's best players. And Farabee has not been able to convert that kind of ice time and opportunity into offense. Coronado has, and Coronado is, I think we're gradually learning, kind of a special player. Farabee is good, but I just think, I think figuring out what you can do with him, where he fits in, sort of being a bit more, like with Coronado, I think we went from, you went from going, okay, what can this kid do, to, okay, what can't he do? And it turns out he can do a hell of a lot. But I think they need to figure out what to do with Farabee, because, Farabee, he was either on that checking line, or he's sort of been, all due respect to the players, he was kind of on a spare parts third line with, he was at various points. He was with Sharon Govich when they were trying out Sharon Govich as a center briefly. He was with Blake Coleman when they split up Backlund and Coleman briefly. He was with a bunch of different guys. And, I think partially that's a roster construction issue. The team is what it is, and they've had seemingly one or two forward lines that seem to be put together with very specific purposes, and maybe the fourth line too, but they've sort of always had to have a line of just sort of, here's what we have left. And unfortunately for Farabee, because other guys have had more clear roles, he's been falling into that sort of, and also Joel Farabee's here role on the team. And I think Frost has sort of had that too, where he's sort of, it's Frost and whatever two wingers aren't playing with Kadri or Backlund. And, I think having a summer to really figure out what their skills are and how you can maximize them might help them, because, you're jumping into the team midstream, and you're trying to figure out where you fit. And sometimes it can be tough, but we'll see, because I agree with you. I think there's reasons to be optimistic about the players, but so far the offensive results haven't really been what folks hoped for.
Green came in with the dough and didn't have a message there, so he did one of these. I think I've not done it. It's confusing. I feel bad, because then it's like, well, I just put down $7. I didn't get it. So sometimes I'll double back and look for the message, but then he came back in with another $7. So if you were to take over next season, what would you do? I feel like he's coming at me a little bit. It's like, okay, smart guy. What would you do? Well, I would trade some picks for really good players, and I'd draft some awesome prospects is what I do. And then I would sign some free agents that are really good, and then I'd make the playoffs. That's what I would do next season.
You try to win every game.
Or I would trade all of my good players away to be really bad, so that I can pick first overall if possible.
You just don't want to be in that sort of middle area, huh?
Where they always are. So next year will be they'll break free of the shackles of the mucky middle. Not sure.
It depends.
I'm not sure. And I'm being cheeky with great. Hey, I'd love to know what the offers are. I'd love to know what's available. I don't know that there's an offer sheet candidate out there. I like Nyes is a stud, but I don't know that anybody's going to pry him out of Toronto.
And with the cap going up, like how many teams are in Edmonton cap trouble?
Teams are going to be better prepared. Edmonton was not. Teams with, like you say, with cap going up, they're going to be a little bit more aware, I think, and have that preparation done. So,
Edmonton reached the find out part of that process in terms of, trying to squeeze some players. And, when you have the guys they have, and you're paying your big guns the amount you're paying, and you don't know if you're going to have an Evander Kane or not, because the messaging is unclear from that camp. I get it, but you can't go into an off season not really knowing what your pieces look like. So,
yeah, Frost, Farabee, Sharon Govich, you can do more. Zeri, stay healthy. You can do more. Coronado, you're doing just fine. There's some potential there for some offense. They're not all going to pop, but if one or two could, And if the others might want to just kind of augment a little better than what they had this year, then maybe it's not quite as dire as it's been. Doogie, another loss. Looks like no Tim Tams sent for Boom, which is I'm not sure what Tim Tams are, but I do like them. That's an American. It looks like that's a Yankee Doodle $2 bill there. It's like
We're
$20.
Australian.
Do you think?
I think it's Australian.
Maybe.
I believe Tim Tams are some sort of a candy.
The candy bracket's in full swing right now.
Yeah, at some point we might need to do an international candy bracket. We might need to get some of our fine commenters and friends from around the globe to contribute. We're not there yet, but
oh, look,
I
he's
think
an
that's
Aussie.
a fun idea.
Thanks, Doogie. Little Aussie cash there. Appreciate it.
It all helps the kids.
This is not. Say I didn't. No, hang on. Here is it. That's Boomer for fuck off, Green. I did just, I feel bad if he was just actually, if he was just actually. So what would you do if he was kind of being? But it kind of felt like, okay, so what would you do? And look at here. First donation went to a good cause. He's got no regret. There you go. And of course, Pinder's watching. It's like it's this just I don't understand. I don't. He gets into it. He's got to argue with people on social media. He's got to argue with people.
He was arguing with Bobby Germany for like 2.5 hours last night on Twitter. Bobby's a nice boy. Leave him alone.
Well, poor Bob Germany's not getting paid to argue with him either. That's what I always say. If I'm going to put myself in that line of fire, I best be making some sort of. There must be some monetary compensation, please, coming my way. Would be the thing. Here's one for Doogie because he's an Aussie and he's a good boy. Does Wolf realistically sign long term? The workload and getting no help. Does he want to stay with that? I think so. I mean, you want to say what you will. There's a building coming. There's young players. He's been part of the team.
And I would also say, like, okay, if from the team's perspective, I mean, we always say this, thinking, what more can the player do to prove himself? They gave him a chance for a couple of years to be in the American League and establish himself, and they gave him every chance to take the reins, and he did it. And then they gave him every chance to be a very good AHL goalie. They put a good team around him with the Wranglers, and even with some good players being pulled up to the big club, Wolf was always really good, had great numbers. Last year, he, admittedly got, let's be honest, kind of the dog's breakfast of deployments for 2/3 of the season because it was, hey, Dustin, Dan Vladar got hurt in New Jersey. Jump on a plane. You're flying out and you're going to start on in a couple nights kind of deployments. And that's how you learn the league. But this, he was good. He was a top prospect. People were banging the drum for, okay, what more does Dustin Wolf need to do to get a chance to be the starter? And they moved out the other guy and he was given a chance to be the starter. And
yeah, you could argue that they played it perfectly because he looks like he is prepared to carry the load. And he maybe a year ago, 2 years, maybe he wouldn't have been. So
heading into the season, goaltending was a massive question mark.
Yeah.
And now you could argue it's an organizational strength because of how Dustin Wolf has performed and how they've managed Dustin Wolf's performance.
That's right.
So I think it's a good fit. I think they'll, if we're talking about offseason priorities, figuring out what you're doing with Rasmus Anderson is 1A. 1B is probably figuring out a long-term fit for Dustin Wolf, because I think you're not going to learn much more about him in the second year of this current deal outside of, he's still really good. And the more games you let him play, the more expensive he's going to get.
The Flames blow a lead and lose in overtime. The Wild lose a lead and win in overtime. So the gap widens just a little bit, sets up a Bugatti. Biggest game of the season coming up on Friday. Can't wait. I could probably wait. I mean, it's
God damn it.
Could have used a win tonight. Especially if they were going to win. Could have used the Wild loss. I even begged to the hockey gods today. I even did it. Gave me the middle finger. It's tough.
Was that why it was 8-7 final? Because you were praying to the gods?
Yep, they were. Giving me the middle finger. Sad but true. Appreciate all the sponsors. Appreciate everybody being in the chat. All the money going for the Youth Centers of Calgary as we kind of wind out this regular season here. I have a feeling this might have one more of these left. My friggin' batting average for getting to overtime is unbelievable, though. No one gets to OT better than me. What's that? Where's that? Teams that are down by one, up by one, or tied? If that was the thing, I'd be at the top of that chart. I cover 1-goal games. That's all I do. 1-goal games.
If Boom's on Afterburner, it's going to overtime.
That's right. Shit, yeah. Yeah. Thank you to Yasmin. Thank you to the Wrench, Ryan Pike. Thank you for watching. We appreciate you.
That'll do it.
See you, buddies.